It is said that luck is the intersection of preparation and opportunity. Welcome to Australian Hunting Backcountry, a platform where we will focus on all things around hunting in the backcountry. My name is Tobias, and I want you to join me as we hear lived experiences, explore gear, tips, techniques, and discuss the unique places that backcountry hunting can take you. I appreciate you coming along with me as I try to increase the knowledge to help us so that we might have better luck in the backcountry. Hey team, keep listening in for a discount code later on in the podcast. Welcome to Australian Hunting Backcountry, and today are welcoming a guest I've had a couple of conversations with so far, and going to be discussing a bit of health in the backcountry and trying to be a bit more sustainable. This has really come about and been prevalent for me after the trip to New Zealand that I just did, where I became really aware of the wear and tear on my body during trips. So I'd like to welcome Rich from Shift Focus Health. How are you going, Rich?
Good, thank you, Tobias. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Mate, thanks so much for making this happen, this work.
That's right.
So just give a bit of background and then I'll throw over to you to sort of introduce yourself as well. So Rich is a first responder. So he works as a paramedic and is obviously doing a lot of shift work. But Rich is also a hunter, has done a bit of backcountry hunting, and was introduced to me through a mutual friend who has also introduced Rich to the backcountry hunting lifestyle. So generated this this podcast for the reasons, like I said, to discuss supplements and what we can do to sort of help improve our performance in the backcountry, because there are quite a few crossovers between shift work and backcountry hunting. So, Rich, tell us about yourself. Introduce yourself and your business.
Like I said, thanks for having me. I've been a paramedic for a little bit more than 15 years with one of the state services here in Australia, but I grew up in New Zealand, and hunting was like a rural New Zealander. Hunting's a massive part of your life, and all sorts of different types of hunting too. But the thing that sort of really captured me in my probably 12, 13 years old was backcountry hunting. My dad was one of the live capture deer guys, jumping out of helicopters and bulldogging deer down the east coast of the North Island in New Zealand, and we had a deer farm. So I suppose deer have always been something that's been a constant part of my life. So moving over here to Australia, it took me a few years to get into the hunting scene, and it wasn't until I made a few friends from work that I was able to sort of get back into it here. But yeah, look, as I was saying, I'm a paramedic, and throughout COVID, my wife and I, she's a paramedic too, we both ended up getting burnt out pretty heavily. We would have quit if we could have. We were right at the end of our tethers, and we just couldn't see a way clear to get out of it. So I've got a bit of a research brain. If you ask our friend how long it takes me to choose a piece of gear or a tent or a sleeping bag, I'll tell you. But I dived into the research of how I was going to improve our work lives, and it all kept coming back to how bad shift work is for you. And that sort of sparked something for us in mid-22 around maybe there's a way that we could use some of the information that we were finding to improve the way that we were doing our shift work. A lot of that came down to the way that we used light and dark, and obviously sleep's really important too, but there was some benefit from some different types of supplements. And so we started implementing some of these things, like the time that we wake up, the way that we get light in our eyes, and all that kind of stuff, which we can discuss a bit later.
Hmm.
And then there were some supplements that we started taking as well. Um, Told a few friends about it, like, hey, look, these sorts of things that we've started doing, and it's really improved our lives. And then a couple of people said, look, this is probably a business idea for you. And that's where the idea for Shift Focus came from for us.
Hmm.
So it's a business that we provide education and some sort of tools and supplements for shift workers. At the moment, we've really only got the one supplement, but we're working on developing more, I
Yep.
suppose.
Yep.
And then, yeah, as far as it relates to what you've got going on with the backcountry hunting, it's almost like self-imposed shift work, isn't it? You've got
Mm.
sometimes late nights, always early mornings. You've got shitty recovery windows, um, disrupted sleep. Uh, so, yeah, a lot of the supplements that I think, and a lot of the tools that I think would be beneficial for somebody who's out in the backcountry. Um, I think there is a distinct crossover between what I've got to offer in terms of at least the knowledge I've got
Mm.
and the backcountry hunter as
Mm.
well.
Mm. Yep. So since our first conversation, you have sent me a guide that you and Mel have done up, and as I've said to you, I was a shift worker myself many years ago in a previous lifetime,
Mm,
and I read that the other day, and I thought to myself, where was this information 25 years ago?
mm,
That would have been gold to us back then, because back then it was just, you needed to harden up. It was,
mm,
and you've even quoted that in your guide there. Um, which was not, as we later found out, is not healthy. And
mm,
shift work, they've found that shift work, literally takes years off your life, the longer you
mm,
do it. But yes, as you said, backcountry hunting is a form of self-imposed shift work, and I certainly found that after a month of hunting in New Zealand, came back, and the recovery for me, I guess, and how I used some supplements and so forth as well to help in that
mm.
recovery. So, the hunting that you've done in Australia, then let's start with that. Um, so yeah, take us through how you sort of transitioned into hunting in Australia, and the differences that you saw between what you'd done in New Zealand and over here.
Um, yeah, I think like the major difference is the culture around it. Like you would know how much
Mm,
more hunting is accepted in New Zealand.
mm,
It's a way of life. There's a hunting and fishing shop in every town.
mm,
You can call in at a farm supply shop and grab, ammunition, and in cities as well. Whereas, you might be able to do that somewhere here in some of the smaller towns in regional areas, but you know, it's not something that's so widely accepted as a way of life. And I think a lot of that's got to do with, like the Maori population in New Zealand have always been hunters.
mm-hmm,
I grew up in a small Maori settlement on the east coast of the North Island. My parents owned the shop in the town, along with the farm that I grew up on, um, and so the hunting I did there was primarily as a kid. It was just rabbit shooting around the farm or whatever. But like I said to you, we had this deer farm, and we also had. I wouldn't be able to tell you how big the patch of native bush was at the back of our farm, but there was always a stag running up and down the outside of the fence during the rut.
mm-hmm,
Go to sleep at night listening to the sound of red stags in our own paddocks roaring.
mm,
It was a pretty cool thing, to be fair. And My dad was a hunter, so he sort of got me into it. I hunted all through high school. Friends of mine, play rugby on Saturday at 1 o'clock, and then in the car at 3:05 on the way to the bush for an overnight trip.
mm,
Hunt Sunday, come home,
mm-hmm,
go back to school, kind of thing. Um, and then when I got to Australia, moved here in 2011, just after the Christchurch earthquakes.
mm-hmm,
Um, and It took me until pre 2019 to start hunting again. I lived out in a regional area, and uh, there was a guy that he was a nurse in the local hospital, and he also liked it as well. So we used to do a little bit of sort of car camping, car hunting, but it's just not quite the same as far as I'm concerned.
Yep.
Um, but then, yeah, I ended up meeting a short, kindly gentleman who I was working with, who we both know as well, and he gave me an invite up to a little honey hole that we're aware of,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I got back into it from there. And then I met Paul, our other friend, and been on a couple of backcountry hunts here. Not as many as I'd like, to be honest, because my wife and I are both shift workers. We sort of have to have a like a roster that matches,
Mm.
and that really only gives me 2 days out of any 8 days that I can go away hunting.
Yep.
And it's just, yeah, it's a little bit harder
Mm. Mm.
harder for me to do it. Um, Look, it's something that you keep saying, oh, I'm gonna, and then well, for me, trying to start a business, trying to run a family, um, trying to work shift work, sometimes takes a bit of a back seat.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, but yeah, look, it's something that's I'm slowly regaining some of my time as the business starts to look after itself a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the setup's done now. I've just finished a couple of years worth of postgrad study as well, which kept me quite busy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and now that that's all done, the plan is a lot more as I move forward in the next few years.
Yep. Coming back to one of the first things you said, then I remember 2 years ago when I was in New Zealand, went over there for 3 weeks on my own. Got off the airplane in Christchurch, got an Uber to the rental car company, had a camper van on hire. Jumped in the car, turned the radio on, and literally one of the first ads I heard was, "Come on down to Hunting and Fishing Christchurch for all your duck hunting needs. We've got ammo, we've got decoys, we've got blah blah blah." And I thought, am I in like some alternate universe here? That was on a mainstream radio channel in Christchurch, one of the biggest cities in New Zealand. Not even a regional town or something. Some. And I thought, that right there is the perfect example of the difference between one of the significant differences between Australia and New Zealand is that hunting is part of their culture, and it's just so accepted over there.
Yeah, look, it still has its haters, same as here, obviously, but it just, I personally think that if it wasn't such an accepted sort of by the Maori population over there, I think it probably would have been co-opted into something else, just to get political for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Like my primary school had 28 kids, and every single one of us went out hunting or fishing on the weekends. It was just the way that our lives were, and I think as that population moves to be more urban and they lose touch with some of the sort of the hunting and fishing at their roots, it is starting to sort of turn a little bit in New Zealand, slightly, but I can't see it ever going away. Like I could feasibly see it being taken away from us here.
Yeah.
I can't see that ever happening in New Zealand without riots. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So I think we should probably just touch on qualifications and stuff as well. So, like you said to me during that initial conversation, you're not a personal trainer, you're not a nutritionist, you're not a dietitian, blah blah blah, but you have done a massive deep dive into this whole subject area.
Yeah, I think that's probably the most important part of this whole chat, setting it up, is that I'm not a shift work researcher. I don't have postgraduate qualifications in shift work. I'm not a nutritionist, a dietitian, anything like that. Certainly not a doctor. But I mean, it was sort of like the catch cry during COVID, like do your own research. And to some extent, that's a flawed thing to say, but another, like, the entire knowledge bank of human history is available for us on the internet. Um, And for me, wanting to start a business, and for it to, to be not based in supplements, it's based in the education, but the supplements are certainly a part of what we do now and are planning to do in the future. Um, like it's almost negligent that you don't do a significant level of research, and we've since been working with a nutritionist as well.
Mm-hmm.
More just like saying to her, hey, we've said this or we think this. What do you think? And we've run it by her, and um, so that doesn't particularly qualify anything that I'm about to say any higher than anyone else. But something we discovered when we first sort of thought maybe we'd like to create supplements for shift workers, and we went into the research side of things. Like the supplement industry is so under-regulated in this country,
Mm-hmm.
um, and some of the things that you can say or do regarding supplements legally you're not allowed to, but you're just not. There just isn't the follow-up from the regulations, the
Mm-hmm.
regulatory authorities.
Mm-hmm.
So um, my information's kind of like one step above Jim Bro, but one step below um, nutritionist, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's people making claims about things, and we see it all the time, and it does get frustrating after a while because you're like, I just wish I could turn around and say that this will fix your life the way that I want to be able to say it, so that more people would use it or buy it, but
Yeah.
you just can't do that legally. And so we kind of come from this middle ground where we have a background in research. To get a paramedic, you've got to be a degree now, a degree qualified person now. There's a research component to your undergraduate, and then
Mm-hmm.
with my postgrad that I've just done, there's a significant bent towards research.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, look, it's important to know that supplements are still massively under-regulated. There's no zero-sum supplement. Everything that you put into your body has, I suppose, an outcome, whether that's desirable or not.
Yeah.
Some supplements, like there's, we'll talk about creatine shortly, I'm sure, but creatine, one of its sort of composites that it gets broken down to is creatinine, which is a marker for renal failure, for kidney failure. So you've got to be really careful if you've got any kind of kidney disease or anything like that. Creatine, you see people shouting from the rooftops of Instagram, it's the safest supplement out there. Well, yeah, it is. It's the most researched, but only for certain people.
Mm-hmm.
The same with, vitamin D. You can take all the vitamin D that you want, but it causes problems in your liver if you're not already deficient.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Just to be
there's no zero sum.
just to be clear, we're talking
Yeah.
about the supplement vitamin D, not the vitamin D
Yeah, yeah.
that everybody jokes
If you're
about.
causing problems with your liver and that, you might have to downsize, I reckon.
You said a term then, zero sum.
Yeah.
Just explain that for everyone that doesn't sort of know what that would
Yeah,
mean.
so I guess what I mean by that is that there's nothing that doesn't create an effect within your body, within your physiology. Everything that you put in, like nothing doesn't have an effect. If it, double negatives,
Mm.
my English teacher would shoot me. But um, every time you put something into your body, especially supplement wise, any prescription medication, any food, like it's all going to have an effect of some kind. And while you may not notice it, and while it may not be harmful, it is doing something to you. So yeah, that's what I mean by zero sum. There's nothing
Mm.
out there that, and certainly in the supplement world, like all of these things that we see, you walk into Chemist Warehouse and there's what, 3 aisles of
Mm.
supplements,
Yep.
tablets, and all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
All of those things have a history of being at least thought of as being of some medicinal value. And yeah, you've just got to be aware that everything that you put into your body has a cost of
Mm.
some description. Whether you notice it or not, that's fine,
Mm.
but there is something that will happen as a result.
Yep. Yep.
I guess the other thing to say there too, Tobias, is that you know, as we get on through the chat, I'll probably talk a little bit about research. You've seen in that guide that I sent you, there's
Mm.
a supplement guide at the back of that, and
Mm.
I've sort of qualified it into strong evidence, moderate, mixed, or no evidence at
Mm.
all.
Mm.
Um, the evidence that I've gone into is all stuff that I've read I've God knows how many journal articles and studies I've read over the last few years of trying to set up this business
Mm.
into various different types of supplements. And um, no one can tell you what to put into or out of your body, but there's also a lot of like, oh, uh, if you take X supplement, you're just turning money into urine. It
Mm.
does nothing for you.
Yep.
Like if you've got something that you found and you take it and you think it gives you a benefit,
Mm.
well then it's a benefit, right? The placebo effect is still an effect, whether
Yep.
it's right or it's wrong. So sort of the other thing to say with that is if you've got something that you take, um, the research says is a load of garbage, but you feel like there's a benefit from it. If you think that something helps you sleep better, well, take it.
Yep.
But just be aware
Yep.
that there are probably some other side effects downstream.
Yeah. I was actually going to touch on the placebo effect, supplements and the placebo effect. But I remember listening to a podcast. I think it was Diary of a CEO. Um, he has some really interesting guests, so I'm always seeing what he's up to. But and it was about caffeine and
Mm.
how beneficial we perceive caffeine to be. Yeah, I was going to ask about all that equipment in the background there. And they did studies. So they gave a group of participants coffee. They gave a
Mm.
group of participants decaffeinated coffee, and then they had a control group in the middle, right? And after, so in the morning, they gave them a cup of coffee, and then they had to record their feelings,
Mm.
blah blah blah, cognitive state and so forth before and after. And even the group that was given decaffeinated coffee, and it was a blind test, so even the group that was given decaffeinated coffee still reported cognitive improvement, mood
Mm.
improvement, all the things that we feel that coffee does for us. So they went, okay, well, we've done something wrong here. So
Mm.
let's redo the test and we will tell the participants that we're giving them decaffeinated coffee, right?
Mm.
And even after they told them, they still reported an improvement in mood, cognitive ability, blah, blah, blah.
Mm.
And what they came to the conclusion of was that basically just that whole thing, that whole routine of having a coffee provided, even though there was no caffeine in what they were
Mm.
drinking, it was just that routine, that thought process, blah blah blah, the whole placebo effect. That was the best
Yeah.
example of it that they could sort of demonstrate.
Yeah. And look, that's well studied in the research and the literature
Mm.
since time immemorial. You know that the placebo effect is an effect, and you kind of, I suppose, in science, you kind of get laughed at for having an effect from a placebo. From what I can see in some of the research, it's like this modest effect is probably placebo effect.
Mm.
So
Mm.
maybe there's something that you haven't measured or that you can't measure, and things like routine, incredibly important for shift workers. Same with with your backcountry hunting. I remember the routine of the wake up in the mornings. Like the alarm never had to go off.
Mm.
Almost like you would wake up, you're just absolutely frothing for it. But the first coffee that you have on the side of the hill is the best coffee you'll ever have.
Yeah.
Like the actual routine and the excitement of wiring you up to go out for a day.
Yeah.
And it's a bit the same with anything that we do. Like you can say that okay, maybe that's a placebo effect, but as you just mentioned, and I know this is only an audio recording, but for everyone, I've got a pretty significant caffeine dispensing set up behind me, um, and yeah, the routine of getting up every day and doing this, making a coffee and figuring myself out for the day, having a little few quiet moments to myself, is one of the really important things about the whole, I suppose, shift work mindset.
Mm.
And I think it can transfer across into everything else. And so, you know, maybe the effect that they saw, the cognitive effect that they saw, is placebo from the perspective of measuring caffeine, but they didn't measure for the effect of the routine.
Mm.
And as you say rightly, sure, it's a placebo effect, as in they shouldn't have got an effect from the coffee, but there are other things that you might do on a day-to-day basis that do affect you positively, and those things just aren't measured for in the research,
Mm. Mm.
and they can't be controlled for either. So
Mm.
yeah,
Yep.
it's something really important to think about too going forwards with what we're talking about here. A lot of the research, some of it's paid for by the companies that make the supplements.
Mm.
Some of it's paid for by people that are pharmaceutical companies that don't want to see benefits from supplements.
Mm.
Um, there's a guy, Matthew Walker. He's a sleep doctor. He's probably got the whitest teeth on the internet. But he says that genuinely, if most of these supplements were as beneficial as some people say they are, then pharmaceutical companies would have found a way to monetize them and make trillions out of them. Um, and it's certainly the case for a lot of supplements, but some, which I'm sure we'll talk about shortly, definitely do have an effect, placebo or not.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah.
Yep. So before we start talking about supplements, I just want to discuss supplements as a whole versus lifestyle.
Mm.
So, when you look at bodybuilders, professional bodybuilders,
Yeah.
for them, supplements are maybe 5% of what they sort of look at in terms of their performance and improvement and so forth. It comes down to exercise routine, obviously,
Mm.
good quality sleep, and diet are the three main
Mm-hmm.
things that champion bodybuilders really focus on, and then supplements are a sort of very distant secondary to those three.
Yeah, that's 100% the case with everything that you do, really. It comes down to sort of the routine and the discipline that you can create for yourself. Your habits outside of, for us as shift workers, one of the big habits is early morning light.
Mm.
You would have seen in that guide that I sent you, there's a reason that sunrise charges you up and sunset calms you down. It's the wavelengths of light that occur at those times of the day. They go in, and just behind your eyes, there's a thing called the suprachiasmatic nucleus, SCN. The SCN is your body clock, and it runs essentially on light.
Mm-hmm.
So it is far more important to wake up in the morning, get your eyes out into early morning daylight, than it is to have a cup of coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Like the light in your eyes resetting your body clock will do 100 times more for you. And so I couldn't agree more with the statement you just made that supplements are maybe the 5% that you need to find after you've really optimized everything else.
Mm.
Problem is that, the dude that's got a bench in his garage and he wants to be, Mr. Universe, that's fine. But a lot of us are just looking for quick fixes,
Mm.
and a lot of us lean on supplements. And I say this as somebody who has started a company that sells supplements. The problem is that, and I suppose the thing that will differentiate us going down the track as a company is that we're very honest that what we've got for you is the last 5% on top of nothing's magic.
Mm.
It's the last 5% on top of a routine. There are no or very few immediate payoffs.
Yep.
So yeah, 100% correct.
Mm.
The supplementation angle is one that you can use as part of your routine
Yep.
to give you the extra that you need.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is with certain supplementation, certain supplements, if you're deficient as well. So if you go, you can get vitamin D, for example, tested at the doctor's, B12, all of those sorts of things, which are traditionally thought of as supplements. If you're deficient in them, they'll have a bigger effect on you.
Mm-hmm.
But bear in mind too that as we discussed with something else a couple of weeks ago, I can't remember what that was, but anyway, there's a range that is called normal, and if you're at the lower end of normal, but maybe the way that particular element is distributed in your body is by weight, You might be at the lower end of normal for a 70 kilo person
Mm,
who's 5'9", which is the average person that medicine sort of takes all of their averages off.
mm,
I'm 6'2" and 125 kilos. Maybe the lower end of normal technically is normal, but I need a lot more
mm.
because that particular thing is distributed per kilo.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, they're all things to take into account, but overall, exactly correct. Supplements are the top 5% of, or the last 5%
Yeah.
of good habits.
Yep. Yep. All right. So, in terms of supplements, then, um, we mentioned it already, and it's probably the most, as you said, widely known, recognised, used supplement out there,
Mm,
is creatine.
yeah.
So, where does creatine fit into the lifestyle of a backcountry hunter?
Creatine's, it's something that's, I think, pretty incredible overall. Like we just said, there's no such thing as a miracle supplement, but I certainly don't want to, pump up its tires too much. But um, it's so creatine is part of the building blocks of energy formation within your body. And the cool thing about your body is that it uses basically the same energy source, ATP, for everything that you do, whether that's muscles, heart pumping, or brain function. There are a whole bunch of other things that you use as well, glucose, oxygen, etc., etc. But um, the research into creatine and the efficacy, it was invented like 140 something years ago, and it's been researched ever since then.
Mm,
Um, the way that you get it naturally is by eating 1 to 2 kilos of meat per day, red meat.
hmm.
There's not too many people that are capable of that,
Or can afford it.
or can afford it. Correct. Um, it's like the joke that we make about, you know, hunting. It's amazing. You get your own free meat. It only costs about $800 to get there.
Mm, mm.
Um,
Yeah,
so
it's the most expensive free meat you'll ever eat.
yeah, that's right. Um, so it's really widely researched. There are a number of benefits that you get out of creatine. So um, I remember one of my school teachers who was like some sort of world karate champion when I was a kid, and he was taking creatine. Back then, they thought it was dangerous for your kidneys and all that kind of stuff, but it's the idea behind it was that it blocks signals of tiredness. So you could exercise, you could lift your weights, and you would take creatine, and it wouldn't tell you your body wouldn't tell you you were tired, so you could get out a couple of extra reps and grow bigger.
Hmm.
That's like mid 90s. Fast forward to now, and it's like, oh well, actually, what it does is it changes the way that your body is able to create energy to keep using it for a little bit longer.
Mm,
Um, Creatine needs to be taken with a reasonable amount of water. So if you're again, it comes back to the way that your kidneys work. If you're taking creatine, you need to increase your water intake through the day. Um, but the benefits for the backcountry hunter and for anybody really is that if you take sort of 3 to 5 grams a day, and those are the doses that you'll see on the back of most packets at your chemist warehouse, 3 to 5 grams a day, you take what's called a loading dose. So every single day, as part of your routine, you have some creatine.
mhm.
Um, that creatine goes in, it helps your muscles hold on to water, and then it helps them create energy for longer. Um, Always good for the person that's climbing up and down mountains in and out of high country gullies and such,
Mm.
to be able to have the extra muscle function that creatine provides. You need saturation for that to happen. So you need to load up on your creatine. You need to take it every single day to get those benefits out of it. Um, the timing of it doesn't matter as long as it's part of your routine. You just need to load yourself up with it. Um, More recent research is showing us that there's a significant cognitive benefit. So that
Mm.
means that the way that your brain functions, processes information, the way that your brain functions, the way that it processes information over the over a period of time, can also be affected positively by by creatine. There's a number of studies coming out. There's one from 2024, I think, that if you were to take a high dose of creatine, and this is where it's super interesting for shift workers mostly, but I think also for your backcountry folks, if you were to take creatine as sort of like a mega dose, I suppose, if you were to take 10 to 15 grams of creatine acutely, and this is what I do for my night shifts, so around 10 o'clock at night, I take 10 grams of creatine. I don't have any more caffeine throughout the night shift. And at the end of a night shift, I find that I'm functioning far better cognitively. My brain's still clear and it's still working a lot better than it would have without the creatine. Um, so um, you can macrodose creatine to improve your short-term brain function, is what I'm saying. So you can take 10 to 20 grams, and again, this might be just in the mornings at camp. You wake up in the morning. Creatine does degrade with heat, so I probably wouldn't dump it into a hot coffee or a hot chocolate or anything like that. But take 10 to 15 to 20 grams of creatine. 20 seems to be the max in safe literature. And that will keep you functioning well. So the famous study that's just been cited by almost every podcaster on the internet, and now yourself included, mate, is that they gave a bunch of people cognitive tasks to do, and they slept them for 8 hours, woke them up, let them recover from their sleep, gave them a task, and they completed the task, and that was sort of considered the control group. Then they had people, they deprived them of sleep, so they kept them awake for 24 hours. Then they gave them, I think at about hour 21, don't quote me on that, they gave them 20 grams of creatine, and then they had them do a similar cognitive task. And then they had them take caffeine and do a similar cognitive task. And the people that were sleep deprived made less mistakes, sleep deprived and had creatine, made less mistakes than the people that had 8 hours of sleep prior to performing the same task. And so there was a randomized trial. It's the highest quality study that you can get in terms of finding out information about whether something works or doesn't. That was the most recent and the most famous, but there are a number of other studies coming out as well. So essentially, when you're stressed and your brain has a high energy demand, and you know that the South Island mountains create both of those things. It's super effective, and it's more effective in the research on sleep deprived people, hypoxic people as well. So people that are operating at elevation. There's probably not elevation in either our countries that would really, but if you were doing one of those, some of the American, like Colorado, you get up around 14,000 feet kind of thing. Creatine's been shown to have some benefits for a hypoxic athlete as well. So, I guess pre-dawn start, you've had a bad night's sleep. Maybe you've been up until 2 o'clock processing, and you're tired and you're out for something else the next day. Those are the sorts of times when creatine is going to be of most benefit to you. It's safe, it's well researched. It's a thing that we sell. It's a thing that just about everybody else sells nowadays as well. In terms of how you get it, there's the gummies. Recently, there was a study, one of the big companies, some random internet dude sent some of the gummies off for testing, and they came back with 0% creatine in them. They were essentially just fucking lolly snakes. But they've all seemed to have fixed that. So you can get it through the gummies. Again, you need to take them with water. It's easy to forget. That's the other thing on the hill too. Creatine should increase your water intake. So if you're having to drink extra water because you're taking creatine, and you've got to carry an extra couple of kilos of water up a mountain, that's maybe a trade-off that you're going to have to think about. You can get it as powder as well. You can get it flavored, you can get it unflavored, but the big thing you need to look for is either Crea Pure, which is made in Germany, and it's the most pure form of creatine, but it is expensive. Or you need your creatine to be micronized. anything else is really just a waste of time. The molecules are too big for your body to break down and use effectively.
Yep.
So those are the ways that you can get it. Um,
Yep.
you can't dissolve it completely. CreaPure almost dissolves completely,
Yep.
but there will be a little bit of chalkiness that some people hate about creatine.
Yep.
But to be honest, the benefits are so huge that if a bit of chalkiness in the bottom of your glass stops you from taking it, that's probably on you. Be aware that big doses can cause a GI upset too, so they can upset your tummy a little bit. Um, some people are quite sensitive to it,
Mm.
so don't have the first time you take it be on the side of a hill somewhere.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to that podcast that we talked about last time. So the Dr. Darren Candow,
Yep.
he's world's leading creatine researcher apparently. So his podcast I just happened to be listening to before you and I had our phone call, and he mentions, so talking about the cognitive benefits of it. They've done studies on patients with Alzheimer's and
Yeah.
seen cognitive improvement, significant cognitive improvement in those people, and sleep deprivation. Like airline staff, hosties, pilots, that sort of thing, who sleep deprived. 20-hour shifts, that sort of thing, and then giving them like basically a standalone one-off massive dose, 20 grams or something or other of creatine, and
Yeah.
how that basically, recovers them from that lack of sleep.
Yeah. And I suppose just to be a little bit careful, uh, saying that it recovers them from sleep, you probably more it I suppose pluses the cracks um, that sleep deprivation gives.
Mm.
So you still won't, I suppose, recover from lost sleep.
Yep.
That's something else that obviously we've dived into pretty deeply
Mm.
with Shift Focus, but yeah, and just the other thing that stops whether you leave this in or not, mate, is if you say something that TGA don't like, the Therapeutic Goods Association, then you can get in a bit of trouble. So um, there are certain claims that you can and can't make about things.
Yep.
For one of them, like we got into trouble with this early days, was one of our posts said something about it helps you recover.
Mm.
You have to say, oh, it actually supports recovery.
Right.
Just things like that I think,
Mm.
the thingy. But yes, it does. It plasters the cracks of lost sleep
Yep.
for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there different types of creatine?
Yeah, yeah. So there's three different types that I'm aware of. There's, like I said, the two that matter the most are the CreaPure and the micronized.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what the name of the other one is off the top of my head, but it's basically a larger molecule that can't be broken down by your body as effectively as micronized.
Yep.
And you'll see that it just like if you drop it in a cup, it just stays as like a lump in the bottom of your cup, and you just sort of have to swallow it down and chew on it a little bit
Yeah.
to get it down.
Yeah.
But in terms, creatine is creatine. Now the majority of it is manufactured in China. You sort of just can't get around that.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going to take it, make sure that your manufacturer has third-party testing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really important because a lot of creatine brands, when they've been third-party tested, have found levels of lead, even mercury, I think, and a couple of other heavy metals, cadmium, in the creatine. So you need to be pretty certain of your source, and I probably wouldn't buy it from anywhere that doesn't have a third-party certification of some description.
Yep.
Um, um, Creapure, like I said, is primarily, from what I understand, manufactured in Germany, and it's far more tightly controlled. That's the stuff that most of your professional athletes would be using.
Mm.
Um, yeah, especially if they're, not having to pay for it because it's really expensive
Right.
compared to other creatine. But just be careful. Like you can see, you'll see on Instagram or whatever, kilo of creatine for 24.99. That's fine. That's probably the case. Just double check that at that price it is third party tested,
Yeah.
and that it's definitely come from somewhere relatively reputable. Um, yeah, that's your only caveat for creatine, I think.
Yeah. All right. So while we're on the topic of creatine, then let's talk about your product.
Yeah, look, it's just something that it seemed like a no-brainer for us. It's called Fuel and Repair. The fuel part is the creatine part. It's a really so, like I said to you, the doses of creatine in most, like on the Chemist Warehouse, whatever, they would be 3 to 5 grams. Most products. We think probably 3 grams is maybe a little bit light, especially for a shift worker. And if I was, I imagine that most of your listeners um, men. Well, I probably wouldn't be taking less than 5 grams as a dose, as a single dose,
Yeah.
and 1 to 2 doses of that a day. Especially if you're training hard, lifting weights, doing some pack training, and all that kind of stuff. I think it's worth 5 grams too, just as an aside. But that's what ours has in it. Ours is micronized. For what we could afford at this point in time with the business, it is the Chinese-made stuff, but we're aiming to move towards Creapure eventually,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully be able to keep the price point the same as well. Um, and then we also have collagen in ours. Collagen's a little bit more interesting in terms of the research. The research is it's not negative, but it's certainly mixed.
Right.
There's nothing to say that collagen doesn't work,
Mm.
um, but it's a little bit more mixed. A lot of the positive studies come from companies that manufacture collagen. Um, but yeah, it's something that on the balance of the research that we've read, we've decided to include it in this product.
Yep.
Um, and that's the repair part of the fuel and repair. Um, so I'm happy to chat about collagen as well at some point if you want to.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
when you started telling me about it and the benefits of
mm,
collagen, I think my immediate reaction was I'm sold. Like
yeah, yeah, yeah,
send me 14 immediately. I love it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because my knees took a hammering over in New Zealand, and
Mm,
yeah, I probably should have been preparing myself a little bit more for that pre-trip and so forth. But yeah, we'll talk about some of those sort of sups that may help with that. But yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, if you sort of feel you've done your information dump on creatine, then yeah, we can move on to collagen.
Yeah, look, I suppose to finish up the creatine thing, it's safe, it's supported, it's well researched. I kind of can't see a reason why any adult should not be taking it.
Mm.
Um, don't quote me, don't report me to PGA, but I genuinely think that it's um, it's so beneficial. Provided like you can't take it if you're pregnant, you can't take it if you're breastfeeding, or not that you can't, but there's been no research into those populations to say that it's safe or not.
Yeah.
And you probably shouldn't take it if you've got even like a family history of kidney issues.
Hmm.
Like I probably wouldn't take this. Like Jonah Lomu, Joelle Banderi, like all of these rugby players I grew up idolizing, the Islanders, they all died from kidney failure. I probably, if I was a Pacific Islander, I'd probably go and get my kidneys tested
Mm.
before I started taking creatine.
Yeah.
So that's just sort of like the one caveat I'll put out there from
Mm.
from this. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that exhausts creatine.
Hmm.
In terms of how you want to get it with you, like I know a lot of you backcountry people like to snap toothbrushes and such.
Hmm.
It is extra weight to carry, right? There's a company, now I don't know if they're third party tested. I do know that they're a veteran owned company and they're Australian.
Hmm.
They're called MetaHuman Labs.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Um, they do 5 gram individual sachets of creatine.
Yep.
Um, that's probably the most effective way for a backcountry hunter to get it. You don't have to worry about your own Ziploc bags or anything like that. Just, dumping bunches of powder. If you're not going to take gummies,
Yep.
I'd probably look at something like that. Individual. I'd say there's a few people that do individual sachets and servings, but
Mm.
they're veteran owned. They're Australian, so that's what I would use.
Yep. Yep.
And
I was hesitant to take a Ziploc bag of white powder
yeah,
through the airport security and so forth.
yeah,
I didn't feel like having somebody's finger up my ass.
yeah,
So yeah, I
yeah,
didn't bother taking any with me to New Zealand.
yeah,
So
yeah.
that's probably sorry to interrupt, but if you
No,
want to finish that thought process, but I probably would say the next question would be: are there any detrimental effects to doing that, to taking creatine and then stopping it, like I did and went overseas for 4 weeks?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. So, um, like I said, it's got to build up in your muscles for you to get your physical effects from it.
mm,
So you have to take it for a lead-in period if you want it for the muscle effects.
hmm
If you just want it for the brain effects, it seems to be that what the research is saying at the moment that you can just take a dose prior to your cognitive issue
yeah.
or whatever requires your cognitive power. In terms of stopping it suddenly, there doesn't seem to be any issues that I've seen in the research.
hmm
That doesn't mean that there's not. It's just not something I've seen.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. All right. Yeah. So collagen. So you guys are using bovine collagen,
Yeah.
which is basically a form of protein as well, isn't it?
It is. I wouldn't rely on it to be the protein that I use for muscle building.
Hmm.
I think that it's probably worth bundling both of these things in together. I would still use if I was supplementing protein, like a high quality whey protein.
Yep.
Um, the You can get it. It's dime a dozen. Again, the company like is you know you develop like this little network of people that are trying to start their own businesses within the supplement industry. There's a company called Macropod.
Hmm.
He's a firefighter from rural Victoria. He's got a really, really high quality whey protein product.
Right.
And so I would not use collagen as my source of protein, despite the fact that it's kind of advertised as it. And this is where I suppose the evidence is genuinely mixed. There are some benefits for collagen. The benefits are, well, they seem to be that um, there is some signal that they improve tendon strength. Anything in your body that's made out of collagen, skin, nails, hair,
Mm.
the lining of your stomach, and your tendons. It seems to be that collagen improves or strengthens when supplemented. Um, Again, some of those research studies are funded by companies that make collagen, so you've got to take that into account anytime you're looking at research into something.
Mm.
Um, there have been some studies that certainly show no benefit for any of it for anything. Those studies have been relatively short term, whereas collagen seems to be more of a long term project. It's not something that you just wake up in the morning and go, fuck, my knees hurt, I better take some collagen.
Hmm.
It's got to be something that becomes part of your everyday routine
Mm.
from the research that we've seen.
Yep.
Um, so that's why it's in our product. Like our product is designed as like a once or twice a day thing to take. A 10-gram dose of collagen is around about the sweet spot, up to 20 to 40 grams a day, but 20 grams is probably enough. Um, there's Yeah, like I said, I wouldn't take it as my source of protein. Like the amount of collagen you'd have to take to get the same amount of protein out of a serving of whey protein, it'd be you just wouldn't bother with it. Um, it's not going to build muscle. It's not going to build strength in terms of how function day to day with your muscles. But the study that I suppose switched us onto it as something that we would consider to use in a product was there was a bunch of, I can't remember what type of athlete they were, whether they were basketballers potentially, um, and some were given collagen every day and some were given just a control. And the ones that were given the collagen, the measure of collagen, of whether the collagen was effective or not, was patella tendon strength and thickness. So they measured the patella tendon thickness, and the kids that were taking collagen, or the people that were taking collagen, ended up with thicker patella tendons. I think that was the thing that got you going, I'm going to take it, I'm sold. But they also had supposedly less injuries through the period of this season that they were, you know, researched.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, it is still mixed leaning positive. So it seems to be that there are more positive effects to collagen than not. Um, Again, it's different for different people. There's really good research, and I would like to think that most of us hunters don't give a shit about what we look like, but there is really good research that it's great for skin, nails, and hair. Um, but that's not what interests us as part of having it in this product. It's more about what it does for your joints and tendons. There's three types. So there's type 1, 2, and 3. Type 1 and 3 primarily are either marine collagen, which is like boiled down fish bones and scales, or bovine. So that's like your bone broth stuff, where they cook the shit out of the bones and all of the nutrients that come out of it. Collagen is part of the matrix that makes up bones, and it comes out of the bone broth. And then there's type 2. Type 2 is primarily from cartilage. It's primarily the way that you would get it here. It comes out of chickens, particularly chicken sternums, if you want to get real particular. That's, again, cooked down, boiled down, and then dried and powdered. Ours is type 2 bovine collagen. So ours is from Argentina, Argentinian cattle, and they take all the tendons, ligaments from within the animal, and then they break it all down and powder it and dry it. You've got to take collagen hydrolyzed. If it's not hydrolyzed, if you don't see that on the packet, then your body can't process it properly, and it literally just becomes an expensive turd. The other cool thing about hydrolyzed is it doesn't matter what type you take, it's all going to be like you've already broken it down into a peptide, into an amino acid, and your body will just use it as required. And the idea is that your body already makes collagen, it already uses it to repair itself. And the idea behind collagen supplementation is that, I suppose it's a bit like if some is good, more is better. And so it just gives you bigger reserves of collagen to draw on. They're still trying to figure out why and how the increase happens and why your body chooses to send the supplementation to different parts of your body. But certainly the promising research into collagen is that it's really good for the joints and tendons. Have I noticed a difference taking it over the last probably 6 months? I feel like I have, but I'm also selling it. So yeah, I just that's something that we want to use to differentiate ourselves from the rest of the supplement market too, mate. Supplement market is honesty. It's not magic. Certainly, the people that we we have as customers are pretty big on saying they think that it works for them. Yeah.
Does shark cartilage fit into this category somewhere? Do you know?
Shark cartilage, I don't know. Shark cartilage we did look at because it's been used in Chinese medicine for years. We weren't stoked with where shark cartilage comes from. So that's like your shark fin soup and stuff. Like the sourcing for shark cartilage wasn't it wasn't something that we were comfortable with. And so we sort of stopped looking into it pretty quickly. Okay. So I can't say for sure.
All right, guys. So, as promised, discount code for you. Special deal from the guys at Shift Focus. Use the code Backcountry10 at checkout. That's a capital B, all one word, and 10 at the end for 10% off and free postage. Go and give this stuff a go. Reach out, get some information from the team, and support a small Australian business. All right. So, what are you thinking next as sort of should be high on people's list in terms of supplements?
Yeah, I think a really good one to talk about is magnesium. So magnesium's having a bit of a moment.
Hmm.
Magnesium is it's an element that is necessary for your day-to-day body function. Everything from particularly the way that your body makes its own electricity. Everything in your body runs off electricity.
Hmm.
Every cell in your body creates an electrical charge, and that electrical charge gets set off in whatever way, and then whatever part of your body needs to function functions through that electricity. Your nerves transmit the electricity, essentially,
Mm.
and then different chemicals within your body help to get the electricity from one place to another. So um, magnesium's a big part of the way that your body functions. There's different types of magnesium, and the magnesium itself stays the same, but what it's bound to changes. And so there's the benefits that I see for somebody in the backcountry that would be taking magnesium is mostly around the sleep and relaxation,
Hmm.
um, and as a secondary, the muscle function. So you might have heard, oh, you take magnesium to stop muscle cramps.
Yep.
Yep, that's certainly a benefit. Again, it's got to be taken with the right amount of water.
Hmm.
And later on, we'll touch on hydration too, because I think that's really important. But
Hmm.
magnesium, if I was going to take a form of magnesium, so there's different types. Magnesium citrate is the primary ingredient in a laxative. It's cheap. You might see it on the shelf and go, fuck yeah, I want some magnesium because I'm going hunting and I don't want to get muscle cramps and sore muscles.
Mm.
Don't choose citrate.
Right.
Um, there's two really promising types. Number one is threonate. Threonate has been Hubermaned. He mentioned it on one of or several of his podcasts. Magnesium threonate is the only form of magnesium that crosses the blood-brain barrier, and it seems to be really useful for certainly sleep, though the evidence is again mixed and even a little bit thin. But it seems to also be really good for your focus and your cognitive function as well. Again, mixed evidence, slightly thin, but leaning towards being positive.
Hmm.
That's probably not of a huge benefit to you. The one that really matters is, I think, is magnesium glycinate. So it's bound to glycine. Glycine is something that your brain produces during sleep. The thing about magnesium glycinate is that it's got really good efficacy in terms of relaxation. You're still getting the magnesium. Like I said, the magnesium doesn't change based on form. So you're still getting the magnesium that's going to help you with your muscle function, or should help you with your muscle function.
Hmm.
And then you're also getting the glycinate, which seems to, in most of the studies I've read that are positive, have a positive effect on what's called sleep latency and relaxation. So the idea is that it's, you've had a big day on the hill, um, you're back in camp waiting for the sun to come up the next morning. Magnesium glycinate, it should help you relax. It should help you with a little bit of your the onset of sleep time,
Hmm.
and then it's also going to help with should also help with your muscle function. So that's what I would do if I was a backcountry hunter. It's something that my wife and I also both use.
Hmm.
That's what I would consider. Like, I think magnesium's, depending on who you talk to, 1 in 4 people use magnesium
Hmm.
um, in some form or another. I think the main form that should be interesting is magnesium glycinate.
Right. And in terms of when you take that,
Yep.
because it is sort of not only does it obviously affect, help with muscle cramping and so forth, but the sleep and the calmness and so forth. Would you say that
Mm.
that's something that should be taken like with dinner or lunchtime
Yeah,
or?
that's what I'd do. No, I'd probably have it. It seems to have a reasonably fast onset time. It moves from your stomach into your system reasonably quickly,
Yep.
from what I've seen. So I'd probably take that, yeah, around sort of your dinner time, a little bit after.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that's what I would. Well, that's where I would put it in my routine.
Yep. All right. No worries. Right. So
There's a few other things as well. Or did you have any other questions on magnesium?
no, no, that was it.
Yeah. There's a few other things supplement wise that I think are of interest.
Hmm.
Um, so in terms of cognitive function and fatigue, there's something called rhodiola, rhodiola rosea. Uh, it's recently been added, I think, to one of the TGA lists, and they generally only add things to their list as being like it's not restricted, but it's, I can't remember the name of the category they put it in. But essentially, there's enough proof that it works
Hmm.
that there could well be some sort of harm caused by it. So, rhodiola, it's an adaptogen, something called an adaptogen. It's something that your brain uses to help itself function. Um, it's got good evidence in small studies that it's really effective for reducing fatigue and improving focus.
Okay.
So I think that's something that's really interesting. I think you're going to see it maybe blow up in terms of trends across, the supplement industry in the next couple of years as well. Obviously, that's part of having the business is trying to see what's going to come next.
Mm.
For us, it's probably not going to be rhodiola, but that's something that we're keeping a real significant ear out for because the research seems to trend positive.
Hmm.
One of the really good studies that was done on that one was medical professionals, and the medical professionals that received rhodiola made less mistakes than people that didn't over a period of time, and they
That's
all, like 78% of them, reported lower levels of fatigue after the same amount of time on shift.
there you
That's why
go.
it came to our attention.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very small study, but and probably not enough to spend 40 grand on a minimum water quantity of product.
Mm.
But I think it's something that you keep an eye on it,
Mm.
try it out, see if it works for you.
Hmm.
Um, it's a bit of a buyer beware, so rhodiola needs to come from the right source.
Hmm.
It's a bit like ashwagandha is another one, which I'll talk about again in a minute,
Hmm.
but um, they're plants, and different plant parts of the plant work in different ways. So you need it's called salidroside, rhodiola rosea, and it needs to say on the back of the packet from salidroside. That's the most effective type of rhodiola from the studies I've seen.
Yeah.
So that's rhodiola, rhodiola.
Yeah. How do you
Um,
how do you spell that salidroside?
Salidroside.
Right. Yep. Cool.
So that's more about mental fatigue than physical fatigue,
Hmm.
but I still think it's something that's really interesting if a person wants to, like we said, you're looking at squeezing an extra 5% out,
Mm.
that might, add into that 5%. That's
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
Um, there's ashwagandha's worth talking about too. Ashwagandha's, it's often marketed as a sleep chemical, a sleep supplement.
Hmm.
It comes from the root of the ashwagandha plant, or it should, as I said before, different parts of the plant.
Hmm.
If you're buying cheap ashwagandha, it's probably the leaves. So expensive ashwagandha will be ashwagandha root. So you
Hmm.
just need to look for ashwagandha root in
Ingredients.
the ingredients.
Yep.
Yeah. Again, like that's something that's got pretty thin evidence, but going back to what I said at the start, if it works for you, it works for you.
Mm.
I think it's really fucking effective.
Mm.
Um, I think it's really good for me personally. I feel like it removes the idea behind ashwagandha is that it lowers your cortisol.
Hmm.
So if you had a really stressful day, and cortisol is a big part of your sleep wake cycle as well.
Okay.
If you had a really stressful day, your cortisol's up, especially for jobs like mine and or ours. Um, I think that for me personally, I've noticed a benefit from taking ashwagandha. I think it's something that at the end of the day, you get back to um, the tent. You've had a couple of sketchy climbs and maybe a little slide down a mountain on your ass.
Mm.
Like if you're really worked up, and you're not being able to, find some sleep, then ashwagandha might be something you would use. It's
Yep.
not something I would spend extra weight on taking,
Hmm.
but just as part of the of interest segment of this, this chat,
Hmm.
ashwagandhas I've used,
Mm.
even in your day-to-day life. um, have a look at it, have a think about it. And then the other thing is apigenin. Apigenin is a
Mm.
flavonoid that comes out of parsley and chamomile. Um, Chamomile tea has often been touted as something to help you sleep.
Yep.
It's trendy at the moment because again, it's been spoken about by Andrew Huberman, but it should work, right? So
Hmm.
apigenin is sort of like the pharmaceutical extract of chamomile.
Hmm.
Um, the way that it works, no one's really sure. Um, no one's 100% on dosing and bioavailability either. Um, but it's something that's of interest. It may work for you, it may not work. Like I said, evidence is thin, but it does exist. It's leaning slightly positive at the
Hmm.
moment.
Mm.
Um, there is a little bit of, I suppose, skepticism around anything that proclaims to be a miracle. When it first came out, it was like, hey, take apigenin and go to sleep.
Hmm.
And that's certainly maybe not quite the case, but apigenin is something that's well worth thinking about
Yep.
as well. Um, is it worth just taking a few chamomile tea bags instead and then popping your magnesium glycinate in? That's probably where I would go if I was, yeah,
Okay.
putting this together for myself.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
So part of your
Um,
nighttime routine,
yeah.
bit of chamomile
Yep.
tea,
Yep.
magnesium. Yep.
Yeah. That's what I would do
Yeah. Right.
personally if I was, yeah.
Rather than searching out this in tablet form.
Yeah. Yeah. I think until the evidence strengthens slightly, and like I said, there's good evidence that there's probably some benefit.
Mm.
But from what I've seen, the evidence for chamomile tea, and if you combine that with the evidence from magnesium glycinate, it's probably as strong, if not stronger.
Hmm.
Um, and it stops you from spending money on some proprietary formulation
Yep.
as well.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Fair enough.
Um, and then I suppose it's worth talking about sort of your everyday things, vitamin D, fish oil, that kind of stuff,
Yep.
omega 3s. Um, Go and get tested. Go and see if you need those things before you start taking them. Otherwise, again, you're just paying for expensive turds.
Hmm.
Um, Vitamin D, there's a widespread deficiency throughout the population, especially if you don't get enough sunshine.
Hmm.
Interestingly enough, you can be out in the bright sun. Um, Nature gave us solar panels, and that's our forearms.
Hmm.
So you actually have to have your forearms exposed to a certain lux of UV light for a certain amount of time each day to get the amount of vitamin D that you need from the sun.
So this bald
Um,
patch on the top of my head, that's
nah,
not my solar
yeah,
panel.
mine either. No, no, that powers something else, I think. But yeah, no, so most of us would be at least somewhat deficient in vitamin D, but go and get tested because again, there's no point in putting something into your body, paying money for it that you don't need.
Mm.
Um, Omega 3, again, your nerves and brain tissue are made up of certain fats,
Hmm.
and the theory is that omega 3 is good for helping with that. um, it seems to be something that's reasonably widely accepted. Why it's safe. You can get it from a variety of different sources, from fish oil, from I think it's even in bread now.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, it's something that's worth thinking about. But again, I'm go and get tested.
Yep. I've seen,
Um,
so just on the omega oils, so
mm,
I've seen krill oil as well, or
yep,
tablets of krill oil. Is that
yep.
necessarily any better, or is it all just marketing?
I guess that's the thing about the supplement industry, right?
Mm.
Is a lot of it's just marketing. Again, from what I've read, from what I've seen, and it's not as extensive as a lot of the other things I've looked at. So this comes with a caveat. it seems to be that krill oil is more concentrated, so you don't have to take as much as like a massive fish oil
Right.
capsule.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be your primary benefit. Whether it's more effective or not, I don't know.
Yep. And what about the other omegas? So 6 and 9, and even I think there's a 12 as well, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. I don't know enough about it to sort of be able to comment on really without with any certainty.
Okay.
Um, I know that the omegas are primarily used within your brain to create or to help with the substrate of brain tissue.
Yep.
Um, there are others like I think in terms of like there's a fluid or lubricating fluid within your joints. From memory, I think some types of fish oil and omegas help with the creation or the efficiency of the synovial fluid in your joints, but don't
Mm.
quote me. I don't know, to be
Yeah.
honest.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know years ago I was at a conference, and they were talking about um, the benefits of omega 3 in children, particularly those children that had been subject to abuse of some form,
Right.
because abuse during those formative years stops the creation of neural pathways, which then, of course, leads into issues further on in life and into adulthood and so forth. And they tested supplementing children with omega 3, fish oil capsules and so forth, and found that it actually, whilst they couldn't, those neural pathways that had been damaged and so forth, it couldn't restart those. What it actually found is that it branched off on those pathways
Mm.
and then started a whole new neural pathway. So there was a lot of evidence about um, the benefit of that side of things.
Yeah,
I,
that's unreal.
yeah, that's in children, obviously. I don't know whether that
Yeah.
translated over into adults, but yeah,
Mm.
so that's why
Well,
they,
yeah, look,
they sort of said that it was really important for all children, not just children that had been subject to forms of abuse, to be
yeah,
supplemented for omega 3.
yeah. And yeah, like, first of all, that's crazy. That's like, yeah, that's mind blowing. Um, but the point of omega threes, I guess, is exactly that. It's the way that it helps your brain function.
Mm.
So yeah, whether it helps build neural pathways, I mean, your brain sort of loses a lot of its plasticity after a certain age, depending on who you are. That can be from 18 to 40.
Mm.
Um, that's when it matters the most. But I think, and again, don't quote me on this, I could be wrong about this. I think that the idea of omega 3 supplementation is that it maintains the neural pathways.
Mm.
But that certainly would make sense based on what I know about it. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, I suppose the big one, Tobias, is like you said earlier about supplements of the 5%. Like sleep is so big. It's a massive thing. Um, it's chronically out of whack in the population as a whole.
Mm.
Um, you were saying at the start, like I wish 25 years ago I'd had this shift work guide that we put together.
Mm.
The research didn't exist 25 years ago. Like you couldn't have written that 25 years ago.
Mm.
And a lot of it's come in the last 25 years, and a lot of it's to do with sleep research. And then shift workers are just like a ready-made population that they can study for sleep deprivation without having to, do anything extra. Um,
Breach ethical
they don't have.
boundaries.
Yeah, that's right. Because already I can sign up to breach them ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I can't stress the importance of sleep enough for an everyday person, especially if you're moving. So where I'm going with this is that you can't catch sleep.
Mm.
If you got 4 hours last night, you can't have 12 hours tonight and catch the 4 hours you missed last night.
Yep.
That's assuming that you're an 8 hour sleep cycle person. So what you can do effectively is bank it.
Mm.
You can bank sleep. So if I was going to be spending 5 nights out in the high country on a backpacking hunt, if I could, leading into that hunt, I would get as much sleep as I can in the week prior, knowing that I just sleep like garbage when I'm on an angle
Yep.
and getting condensation dripped on off my tent. And, you know, I'm going to be waking up early in the morning, potentially coming back late at night. You can bank sleep.
Yep.
And I would absolutely be doing that in the week leading up to being out on a hunt for, more than a few days.
Mm.
Um, and I just think like sleep in general is massive.
Mm. Mm.
Um,
I think I
there's,
said to
there's,
you, I watched a interview or a presentation by a general who was in charge of, I think it was Delta Force or something like that, like
mm,
some high performing unit.
mm,
And during his presentation, he said sleep is a force multiplier. And,
oh yeah,
as part of their training, they recognise that they sleep deprived, the soldiers. But then, in terms of their performance in the field, that was one thing they really
mm,
concentrated on, was making sure that they had good recovery in the form of sleep.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely, and like they actually um, in the US for sure. I don't know about other places around the world, but they actually train a lot of like their rangers and SEALs and stuff how to fall asleep quickly,
Mm.
and you can train yourself to reach the deepest, sort of most restorative parts of the sleep cycle. Um, uh, I'm stuffed if I know how.
Mm.
It's just something I read recently, but they're training some of their um, some of their people to fall asleep
Mm.
essentially and get what they need really quickly.
Yep.
The other thing too about sleep is your sleep at cycles. For years, the idea was that you slept at a 90-minute cycle, and you fall asleep, you go down into your sleep cycle, and then about 70 minutes you'll start coming up, and at 90 minutes you'll be at this sort of light period of sleep,
Yep.
and you've had all your restorative sleep within that previous 90 minutes, and if you're going to wake up, that's the point to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the theory was that when your alarm wakes you up in the middle of a dream and you're real groggy and you can't function, it's because it woke you up at the wrong part of your sleep cycle.
Mm-hmm.
Probably not quite the case, based on sort of more recent stuff that they've discovered. Um, a sleep cycle can be anywhere from 40 to 110 minutes. And so the idea that you're like, uh, I'm going to go to sleep now and I'm going to set my alarm for 7:30 because that means I'll be waking up at the end of a 90-minute cycle.
Mm.
It's just not effective anymore.
Mm.
You're better off, if you can avoid an alarm, that's the best way to wake up.
Mm.
But you're better off trying to wake yourself up and just get up and get light in your eyes, whether that's bright light from the bathroom heat lamps if it's still dark outside, like daylight savings.
Mm.
But the best way to do it is to go outside and get light into your eyes. And as I said earlier in the conversation, turn on your SCN, your body clock,
Mm-hmm.
and just sort of reset your circadian rhythm.
Yep.
Um, that's the best way to do it. But I just think like in a chat about supplementation, the most important things are the habits that you use. A supplement means exactly that, right? Just an add-on.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I think that's super important
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
Um,
With the sleep as well, you've got listed um, in your document there melatonin,
yeah.
which at the moment, as far as I'm aware, for people under 60, I think you need
Mm,
a script from the doctor. Over 60, you can buy it over the counter at the pharmacy.
mm,
But yeah, I've taken that on and off over the years at times. I do still have some tablets there that I take with me into the backcountry, and sometimes I take
mm,
them, some nights I don't. I
mm.
find that it gives me really crazy dreams, like really vivid,
Yeah.
weird dreams that you then, wake up and remember. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, talk a bit about melatonin.
Melatonin's interesting because it's one of those things that there's reasonable literature behind it to say that it works, but it seems to be modest gains. So it definitely works for modest reasons. So melatonin is your sleep signal. It doesn't make you go to sleep. It doesn't help you sleep. It's the chemical that this body clock releases when it notices that sunset light wavelength.
Hmm.
So it releases melatonin and sets you up. Melatonin sets you up to sleep. It doesn't help you sleep, or it does help you sleep. Actually, that's a lie. Um, but it won't make you sleep.
Mm.
It's purely the chemical that your body uses to tell everything to start shutting down. So everything in your liver has a clock, your stomach has a clock. Um, every part of your body, most of your organs have a clock. Like your heart rate slows down overnight, your blood pressure drops, and it all does that because it knows that it's nighttime. And the
Hmm.
way that your body knows that it's nighttime is melatonin.
Mm.
So you get that sort of sunset wavelength light. It hits your eyes, goes through to your SCN. Your SCN releases melatonin, and everything starts slowing down. It's one of the reasons why meals at night on shift work are so bad for you,
Right.
because your liver's asleep essentially, and you're trying to make it do its job while it's asleep.
Ah, okay.
Um,
Right. So
yeah,
that makes sense now because I remember getting told years ago before I flew over to America, don't eat on the flight.
that's it. Yeah,
And it
yeah,
adds because it adds to your jet lag. Basically, that's one of the ways to avoid it. Was just basically drink
yeah,
water on the flight, and yeah,
yeah,
now that makes
yeah.
sense.
And like you should be eating at the right times for your body. There's a whole field called chrononutrition, which is all about eating at the right times for
Mm.
you. Um, so yeah, melatonin, it shuts everything, or it helps you to sleep. So the studies that they've taken in terms of melatonin, it seems to be that I think there was an average, there's a thing called sleep latency, which is how long it takes you to go to sleep once you've made the decision to go to sleep and made your conditions and laying in your bed.
Mm.
The average time is 8 minutes. um, that melatonin improves your sleep latency by. So it only helps you fall asleep. It doesn't help you stay asleep.
Mm.
Um, it's certainly not going to change too much in terms of the way that you function day to day. Uh, this it looks like there's maybe some, and it's preliminary, but it looks like there may be some research coming out about it affecting androgens, so hormones in kids, potentially either delaying or speeding up puberty in kids that are prescribed it.
Hmm.
When I said right at the start, there's no zero sum supplement. There seems to be one that's sort of widely accepted without a real understanding of why and how.
Mm.
Um, I know people that swear by it. They're like, "Oh yeah, I take melatonin because it makes me go to sleep and I stay asleep forever." That's awesome. Like, that's good. Glad, happy for you.
Mm.
Um, it certainly doesn't work that way for me. I've tried it a couple of times. You can get it over the counter here as long as it's under 2 milligrams or 2 grams. I forget what the dosing regimen is, but it's not effective at that dose
Mm.
anyway. Don't quote me on the dose required because I think it's different by weight. Um, as for the reason it's only allowed over the counter in elderly populations, I think it's because at whatever age they've set as that limit, that's when melatonin deficiencies start becoming more prominent, I guess.
Right.
Um, yeah.
Mm.
So that's what I understand from what I've read and what I've seen.
Mm. Mm.
Um, yeah. So melatonin, uh, take it or leave it.
Yep.
Um, it the thing to stress about melatonin is it doesn't make you sleep. It just it's the signal that shuts everything down in your body. And if you're still, you know, flicking through your YouTube shorts, um, watching Kentucky Ballistics blow up a 500 nitro or something, um, like your brain, that's what's going to happen there. Your brain is just going to keep ticking over, ticking over, ticking over, and everything's going to slow down within your body
Mm.
as it should, but you're not going to get the sleep that you need.
Mm. Mm.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
In other options there, like you've listed, glycine, valerian, lemon balm. Um, are any of those sort of ones that you recommend? Because there's sort of limited and mixed. evidence on
Yeah,
those?
probably the one with the most evidence is the glycine, and that's the one that's found in magnesium glycinate.
Right.
So that's where you get sort of like a two for one. I
Okay.
suppose if you
Yep.
took magnesium glycinate, you can get glycine just by itself.
Mm.
Um, you can buy, there's a thing called GABA. GABA is it's kind of like the chemical in your brain that slows things down. Like if somebody's having a seizure, we give a medication that enhances the way that GABA works, and it stops the seizure.
Mm.
Should. So you can actually buy that. Does it work? Research at the moment says no. Should it work? Well, of course it should,
Mm.
but it depends on how it gets. So everything that you put into your body undergoes a metabolism, right? So it goes through your gut lining, into your bloodstream, into your liver.
Mm-hmm.
It's called first pass metabolism. So there's a whole bunch of different drugs, and as soon as they get to your liver goes, well, that's a thing that shouldn't be here, and it clears it out. And what's left is the thing that has its effect on you. So it seems to be that GABA, most of that's just destroyed by your liver as soon as it gets into your body. Lemon balm, valerian, again, those are things that I think, we've tried all the teas in this house,
Mm.
and all of the sleepy hot chocolates and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's mixed evidence to weak evidence that those are effective. Um, Out of those things, probably valerian is the one with the most promise, or glycine has the most evidence. Valerian has the most promise.
Mm-hmm.
Again, they're not necessarily for sleep; they're more for relaxation. And the idea is that once you're relaxed, that will help you fall asleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But in terms of you staying asleep, is that
Mm.
really where like pharmaceutical grade drugs come in?
Even then, so like if you took, say, a benzo, Restivert, anything like that, like a benzodiazepine, the most common one prescribed for sleep is temazepam.
Mm.
And if you take temazepam, like it's a controlled substance. We have a form of it at work. That's what we use for stopping the seizures.
Mm.
Midazolam, it's locked in a safe. You have to sign it in and out. Like it's quite heavily controlled.
Mm.
It's it can be a dangerous medication if it's not taken properly. Um, there's no evidence that you're unconscious, you're not asleep. So
Right.
there's a big difference.
Yeah.
And the difference is that sleep provides restoration. And if you're not sleeping, you're not repairing and restoring
Mm.
your brain from whatever's gone on during the day.
Mm.
Um, like there's massive correlations coming out in research now about the difference between kids not sleeping and then being diagnosed with ADHD or learning difficulties and all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, being unconscious is not the same as being asleep.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the pharmaceutical stuff again, they'll drop you off to sleep, but they won't keep you asleep
Mm.
necessarily. You just get that nice warm fuzzy feeling. Again, it'll help you feel relaxed.
Yep.
It works again on the signaling of the GABA in your brain that gets released, and everything just slows down, and you go to sleep. You don't stay asleep.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you don't get the important part, which is the restoration.
Yeah. Yeah. That really, by the sound of it, then comes down to making sure your sleep system is dialed in. The right mat, the right bag. You know,
Yeah,
comfortable.
yeah. Uh, this is one of my bugbears. One of the people I go hiking with, and I still go hiking probably more often than I go hunting, but she's got a big Agnes mat, and it is the loudest fucking thing on planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
I'll spend ages falling asleep, and then she'll roll over or fart, and this fucking thing rustles, and it wakes me up. I'm like,
Mm.
God
Mm.
damn it! Like, so yeah, I think your sleep system's really, really important. It's probably the thing that I put the most research into in terms of my hiking and hunting setup.
Yep.
Um, and like dark is super important for sleep, and again, it signals the melatonin in your body.
Mm.
Um, yeah, I would consider that finding somewhere that's at least a little bit level, somewhere that's and something else about sleep is you need to be cooler than you think.
Mm.
You actually need to drop your body temperature by 1.5 degrees for you to fall asleep.
Okay.
Um, So the recommendations for sleeping is that you go to sleep in a cool room, like don't rug yourself up in your doonas and have your air conditioner, your heater blasting and stuff in a hot room.
Mm-hmm.
Because while it might be more comfortable initially, the actual sleep that you get won't be as restorative.
Yep.
So, you know, um, there's no reason why you shouldn't sleep better. You obviously can't be too cold, but there's no reason not to sleep well if you're well set up in the high country as
Mm.
well,
Mm.
or on a backpacking hunt. Um, yeah, I think it's really important too.
Mm.
Um,
That's a
one
whole
more
other.
thing to, yeah, that's a whole other podcast, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more thing I want to talk about is something that's real, again, sort of high yield at the moment in terms of the supplement industry, and that's hydration.
Mm-hmm.
Um, People are using hydration just like they're dumping a sachet of whatever X hydration supplement into their water bottle or into their cup every time you know, they want to have a drink. But
Mm-hmm.
um, and that's cool. Again, that's you do you. But there's significant amounts of stuff that you probably don't need in each one of those sachets. And the one I can think of the most is sodium. Like sodium increases your blood pressure, it hardens your arteries when you get too much of it.
Mm.
Um, and some of these hydration supplements have, if you have two, you've blasted your daily sodium intake, recommended daily intake out of the water. Then you put a bit on your food. There's some in your bread. There's some in your pasta. There's some somewhere
Mm.
else.
Mm.
You put a little bit of salt on your egg in the morning, and before you know it, you're six times your daily limit of sodium.
Right.
Hydration supplements are great when you need them.
Mm.
If you're doing a car camp and you walk, or even just from your backpack hunt, you walk in 4 or 5 Ks, um, that's not enough. Just use water.
Mm.
If you walk a couple of Ks down a ridgeline, you sit there all day glassing, you're sipping out of your drink bottle all day, that's enough. Just water. Um, if you are in the Northern Territory chasing after buffalo all day, it's 40 degrees, or if you've shot a deer on last light down in the bottom of a gully and you get back to your camp at 2 o'clock in the morning and you are absolutely saturated with sweat and effort, that's when your hydration supplements are necessary.
Mm.
If you're, a summer day in the gym lifting, you've lost a liter of fluid, that's when you probably want to look at replacing yourself with some hydration supplements.
Yep.
It's not something that I would recommend somebody take every single day.
Mm.
Um, Again, nothing has a zero sum. I think from memory, when you did your buffalo hunt last year, um, Paul was asking about supplementation. I gave him a couple of recommendations from my wife. She's done marathons, and she really knows how to sort of look after the way that her body works and functions as a result of demand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and even she wouldn't take like a high sodium or a high electrolyte supplement um, just because she'd gone on a 20K training run
Mm.
in the winter. She might do it in the summer, but when she's lost a lot of sweat, but she wouldn't do it, you know. Um, so yeah, Gatorade, Powerade, it's just soft drink, like it's owned by Coca-Cola.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
it's probably not enough, um, so it's not something that I would either recommend. But there's a lot of really good hydration brands. Just be careful when you are choosing to use that hydration. And it's certainly not something that is an everyday thing. Chuck in your drink bottle just to put a bit of flavor and a bit of saltiness in it.
Mm.
You want to have a reason to replace what you've lost. That's the point of the hydration, replacing what you've lost.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. In terms of what you're replacing, I mean, sodium seems to be, like you said, over focused on, because it can be, like you said, basically in everything else that you're going to be taking anyway, and throw a bit of, I always carry little paper sachets of salt and pepper and so forth to add to
Mm.
those the freeze dried meals, just to add some flavour to them. Um,
Yeah.
so, is it possible to replace electrolytes without having to supplement sodium, though?
It's not possible to replace sodium without supplementing sodium, I suppose. But for example, if you've got one of those little sachets of salt, the little paper ones, if you drop that in a cup of water, when you get back to camp, like it's probably the same amount of sodium that's in a hydration sachet that you just paid $6 for.
Mm.
Um, like I think again, like you're talking about the white powder when you guys went on your buffalo hunt, um, and our friend said, "What shall I do for hydration? We need to replace it, etc., etc." I said, "I'll just make your own." And you can just get Chat GPT, just say, "Look, I'm going on a 7-day buffalo hunt in the Northern Territory. How would I make my own supplement?" And it'll probably tell you to use citric acid.
Hmm.
Um, you can just buy some magnesium from Chemist Warehouse, a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar. Those are kind of the key ones that really matter in terms of the way that your muscles function and what they need to be rehydrated.
Yeah.
Um, and you can just mix it together yourself. Um, Sodium is the primary one you lose through sweat.
Yeah.
But the way that sodium works is that water follows it. Um, so if you've got too much sodium in your bloodstream, your kidneys will filter it out and then you'll urinate a lot.
Hmm.
Um, and if you've got too much sodium in your bloodstream, um, it'll stay in your bloodstream and you'll stop urinating. And that increases your overall blood volume. And then that increases your blood pressure because you've got
Right.
fixed pipes with more volume in them.
Yep.
So that's where it starts getting, a little bit dangerous. Not in the immediate term.
Mm.
If you take too much sodium today, that's fine.
Mm.
It's the long term stuff where you just continually have a higher blood volume than necessary. Um, and you'll notice like part of the dehydration process is that you lose water through sweat and through breathing,
Mm.
and then your blood essentially gets saltier, and so your body holds on. That's how it decides to hold on to water and not let more out, is through the salt content in your blood.
Yep.
One of the mechanisms. And so you can then take on your water, dilute your bloodstream again, and then when your body has enough, then you'll start urinating again. You lose the salt through sweat as well. So it's kind of like a fine balance to strike.
Mm.
Your body will generally do it for you, um, generally. And
Okay.
most, like, I'm not aware of any way, I could be wrong, I'm not a physiologist, but I'm not aware of any way that your body makes its own sodium. I think it all has to come from external intake, but
Right.
we generally get far more than is necessary every day anyway.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I do want to circle back and ask you about sugar as well, but before we do
Mm.
that, um, whilst we're sort of on this performance topic, um, are there other ones there that you would recommend as being a sup that you could take on a trip to help with performance, or are those sort of supplements more like a pre-trip, like during your training and that sort of thing?
The number one performance enhancer is caffeine.
Yep.
Yeah. Caffeine is the best thing to enhance performance. It's studied. Um, it's cheap. It's available.
Mm.
It's really good. In terms of like an energy drink or something like that, is that what you're sort of talking about? Like some of the ingredients in there, or
Well, like on your list here, you've got beta alanine, L-carnitine.
oh yeah, yeah. Again, mostly mixed. If you've ever had like an energy drink and it's made your face go all
Mm.
tingly,
Mm-hmm.
that's the beta alanine,
Yep.
and it's just something that essentially dilates your blood vessels. Dilated blood vessels should, in theory, provide a boost in blood flow and oxygenation. Does it? Who knows? But that's what the sort of the studies are there around, is boosted blood flow. Nitric oxide is like if somebody's having a heart attack, or cardiac chest pain, we give them nitric oxide and it dilates their blood vessels. And the idea being for performance that dilated blood vessels mean that you get more blood flow. Actually, it'll probably decrease the blood flow to your heart, and that's why we give it, so that your heart doesn't work as hard.
Yeah.
That's another thing. L-carnitine, again, something that should have a benefit based on where it comes from, but there's no benefit in science to say that it works. And these are all sort of standard ingredients within, a Monster or an energy drink or something like that.
Yeah.
There's alpha GPC, which supposedly helps people with cognitive functioning, processing, and physical performance. Like, if it did, it would cost you $600 a month from the doctor.
Right.
If it did everything that it claims that it does. So for the most part, a lot of these sort of performance enhancing supplements, they might provide some short-term benefit. They might provide a theoretical benefit. And again, if they make you feel better, like I if I'm gonna go and head out and lift some weights up in the gym, like I will take pre-workout. The idea behind that is it dilates my blood vessels, it puts more blood into my muscles, and therefore they should perform better. Some of the research shows modest effects that, yeah, okay, it does. Like nitric oxide helps you lift heavier for longer because of the dilation. Is that going to translate into something that you're doing on a backpacking trip? No, but you might want to take them while you're pack training.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't take, a six-pack of Monsters into Oroka or, the Godly Valley. Um, but those things exist. They should have a benefit. Some of them do have a benefit in the short term to help you with your immediate training. But they're not something, and again, mostly because I've studied this from the perspective of shift work, and therefore mostly from the perspective of something that is an immediate benefit for mostly your cognitive function, the way that your brain works. I haven't gone real deep on some of those other supplements, but if you want to, you can, and if they have a benefit, then they do. Like, don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
Yeah. But short term, like I would take them if I was pack training, for example. If I was going to go and do a blast up maybe there's a staircase in your local steep hill, something like that, then there's probably a benefit short term to taking something like pre-workout or beta-alanine or something like that. Something that's definitely overstated and something that definitely doesn't work in the research is branched chain amino acids, BCAAs. There's like zero evidence that you're doing anything other than spending money. Like it's
Yep. Yeah. I heard on I can't remember how, I think it might have been Mindful Hunters podcast, he talked about branch chain and essential amino acids and the difference between them, and basically how BCAAs were just were just a way for supplement companies to make money, essentially. And,
more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah, more or less. And like, look, you might find like there's an energy drink I like. I can't remember what it's called. Oh, that's the other thing about energy drinks. Like, there's a guy in the shift work space, and he sort of says energy drinks that are 0 calories have no energy because energy is calories.
Calorie, yeah.
That's technically true, but there's a morale benefit that comes from like a 2 p.m. Red Bull, and it's got the caffeine, it's got some of the B vitamins that your body uses in terms of making its own energy. It's got all those sorts of things that will help you in the long run, or well, in the short term, just feel a little bit better. Most pre-workout just contains caffeine and nitric oxide, a little bit of creatine sometimes, and that's all stuff that it's mostly the proven stuff. It's the stuff that definitely works, and it would seem to be that when it comes to performance enhancing stuff, The caffeine is the thing that most of these supplements hinge themselves off.
Mm. I remember years ago, guarana used to be the big thing, and that was, a lot of energy drinks are coming out with that in it, and blah blah blah, and it seems to have disappeared now.
Yeah, V, I think, famously had guarana in it
Mm.
when it first came out. I don't know if it still does. I haven't had a V in years. Um, I don't know enough about why, but a lot of those ingredients are like legitimately South American Amazon jungle kind of things.
Mm.
And I think in some cases, a lot of the ingredients have sort of, if they couldn't synthesize them, they sort of, some of them became endangered and what have you.
Mm.
Um, so there was not guarana specifically, there was another ingredient. It was in an energy drink company that went bust a while back, but it was legitimately, there was like this big investigation because they'd um, been getting it from chopping down endangered trees in the Amazon.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, so um, I don't know about guarana. I haven't seen it in a while. You're
Mm.
right.
Mm.
Never thought about it.
Yeah. Shilajit is another one that's sort of in that form of, are there some ethical
Yeah,
boundaries being crossed about how it's harvested?
yeah, potentially. And there's personally for me, I think that's got to take. I take that into account in something that I buy. Like I said to you about the shark cartilage
Mm.
stuff, like
Mm-hmm.
the way that they fin the sharks and just throw them back in the water to drown and stuff like that. That's not for me.
Mm.
Despite, obviously, this is something I have a hard time explaining to friends and family that are anti-hunting. It's like I've got more in common with the vegan down the road than I do with somebody who's happy to go and buy meat from a supermarket and not get their hands dirty in another way.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think Shilajit, and there's another one of the mushrooms that's like really hard to get hold of. I can't remember which one that is. There's something else to keep an eye on too over the next few years is functional mushrooms.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's significant potential in some of the research that's being done at the moment into lion's mane, reishi, and there's another one. Anyway, keep an eye on functional mushrooms over the next couple of years.
Yep.
I think you'll start to see some reasonable benefits coming out. Like the TGA's just listed reishi as a not a restricted ingredient, but you need to have like I can sell my creatine and collagen because they're food sources. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's a food supplement, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't. It's approved by the TGA to be sold under that banner. Reishi mushroom fell under that until I think last year at some point, and then they shifted it. Same with the rhodiola. Into a more restricted category, so you now have to have approval before you create a product that's got that in it.
Right.
Um, reishi definitely has some benefit in terms of sleep as well.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, keep an eye on, and as that sort of comes out as well, that's probably something that we're going to look at a little bit
Mm-hmm.
as the functional mushroom stuff. It seems to be that there is some benefit to it.
Yep. Okay.
Um, yeah.
Mm. All right. So I just want to circle back to sugar, and again, recognise that you're not a nutritionist and so forth.
Mm,
I always try and minimise my sugar intake. Just, I mean, full stop every day anyway.
hmm Yep.
I do have a bit of a sweet tooth, I'm a fat kid trapped inside this body. But particularly on a backcountry hunt, always try and minimise how much sugar I'm taking because it's linked to inflammation.
Yeah.
But it still has a place. And you sort of mentioned it before. So just in your own personal sort of nutritional plan, where does
Yep.
sugar fit in for you?
Um, sugar is an interesting. Like every carbohydrate is. Well, again, not a nutritionist, not a scientist, but my understanding is that carbohydrates are sugars. And our body, like you eat a piece of bread, your body breaks that down into its constituent parts through digestion, and most of those parts are sugar.
Mm.
And then your body uses those sugars, breaks them down further, and that's how you get glucose into your bloodstream. Like you need glucose to function.
Mm.
You will go into a coma if there's not enough glucose in your blood. Um, So it's one of the major sort of parts of the cycle that creates energy in each of your cells. You need sugar. You need um, a form of sugar.
Mm.
Most of us get enough from our carbohydrate intake throughout the day, um, but there's a reason why marathoners have gummy worms at the aid stations,
Mm.
right? Like they have the jelly snakes,
Mm.
and that form of sugar. It's quick, it's easy to access, it's quickly digested and rapidly put into your bloodstream to be used by your body as energy.
Yep.
So sugar has a place. Yes, absolutely, sugar has a place, especially if you're depleting it or depleted after a big effort. During a big effort, there's that, hangry,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm hungry and therefore I'm fucking
Mm.
angry.
Mm. Mm.
That's usually a sugar
Sugar low.
signal.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah, yeah. Um, what's part of the sugar signal? Let's say that.
Mm.
So um, I would consider that um, on a day to day, I try and reduce the sugar that I have as an intake, chocolate, etc., etc. I try not to, you know. Um, uh, my understanding of that is that it's evolutionary. So it was so hard to find calories back in the old days that when you found, say, a hive of honey or some fruit that you knew was sweet and therefore calorie
Mm.
dense, you would have a craving for it,
Mm.
and you would take as much of it as you could. So yeah, sugar I use like if I'm on a morning hunt and like I've just gone and parked the car and I'm going to do 5-10 k's, then an apple, like
Yep.
a muesli bar, um, that's what I would use.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm pushing myself harder, I know that I've got a big climb in for the day, or it's a big hike up one of those Westland valleys into a headwater, then there'll be a bag of jelly snakes or something in my pack to help with the sugar.
Yep.
Just that immediate energy hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's yeah, and it's so hard to avoid as well. Like it's
Oh
just
yeah.
in everything. Like having kids, I was always reading the labels, particularly because my oldest daughter has a peanut allergy. So you're always
Mm.
reading the back of the packets and so forth before you buy it. But yeah, sugar's just so hard to avoid, and that again, that's a whole other. There's a lot of podcasts on that about the sugar industry and how it's
Yeah.
tricked us all years ago and that sort of thing. But yeah, so I agree. I think it's still got its place, and it has to be specific to its need in terms
Yeah.
of the timing. So it's not just something you know like your food bag for a backcountry hunt shouldn't look like a fat kid went shopping with mum's credit card.
No, that's something that I think I've seen a fair bit of,
Mm.
like, go and do a hike with the kids, and then it's like, oh, I suppose I should, just in case they get a bit low, I'll chuck in this and I'll chuck in that, and before you know it, it does. It looks like you've been to the lolly aisle and nowhere else.
Mm. Mm.
I think there's also something to be said for the morale boost of, you know, piece of Whitaker's next to the, like just before you drop off to sleep at night as well.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, look, for the most part, I think if you can avoid um, over sugaring yourself day to day, but give yourself a little bit of grace when you're on the side of the mountain, I
Yeah,
guess.
yeah. You're right. The morale booster is a big thing. Does go a long way.
Yeah.
Look, we've been talking for a long time now, and there's a lot of information there for people.
Mm.
Where do they go to find you yourself and your products?
Um, shiftfocus.com.au is our website. My wife maintains an Instagram that I try and have as little to do with as possible,
Mm-hmm.
and that's Shift Focus Health on Instagram. Um, if you want the guide, even just for the supplement part, you can um, sign up. for the emails on our website, and
Mm-hmm.
then just unsubscribe yourself once you get the guide. Or probably just direct email us, shiftfocushealth@outlook.com.au, if you want even just the supplements part, and I'll send that to whoever wants it,
Mm-hmm.
from amongst your audience.
Mm.
But yeah, look, I just think the most important thing is actually something you brought up, which is that the supplements are the 5%, right?
Yep.
Good habits, good good nutrition day to day, good training. That absolutely shits on any magic fix that the supplement industry is trying to sell you.
Mm. All right, mate. I think we'll leave it there. Definitely taken up enough of your time, and we both got other things to get on to today. I'm planning a hunt with my young fella today, being school holidays, so
Oh, nice.
we're going to head away
I'm going to
for
get
the weekend.
subjected to the latest fucking Minions movie. Yeah. No, look, thanks for having me. Thanks for the chat. Yeah, I think there is some benefit to a lot of people in what we've discussed today.
Mm.
So yeah, hopefully your audience get a bit out of it. And yeah, just if you got any more questions, email us on that email address.
Yeah. Hey team, thank you for listening in. If you'd like to contact me for a chat, pass on any feedback, or have some ideas for future podcasts, please reach out to me on Instagram at Australian_hunting_backcountry, or email me australian.hunting.backcountry@outlook.com.au. Thank you, and please remember, look after yourselves and your mates.